الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذريته ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So alhamdulillah, we are, I think, beginning the last week of Shahr Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Shahr Sha'ban. So that means about a week or so, nearly to the beginning of Ramadan al-Mubarak, the blessed, inshallah. And alhamdulillah, we're reading the blessed words of al-Da'iya al-Allama al-Kabir wa Mujaddid al-Qarn al-Sadis Sayyidi Muhyiddin Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani radiallahu anhu wa ardah. And we have arrived to the 26th discourse out of the 62. And it's our intention, inshallah ta'ala, that we keep going till we complete it. Is ahyan Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the permission to do so. And as we've seen thus far, and we are not quite half through the discourses, but we can pick up on, I think, kind of some central themes. And one of those central themes that Shaykh talks about on more than one occasion, obviously, is this kind of relationship between al-Khalq wal-Khaliq. So Khalq being the creation, al-Khaliq being the creator. And that means acknowledging and treating the creator in every aspect of our humanity. So not just as he would say with the tongue, or what we would say paying lip service. He classifies that, or he sees that as a type of nifaq or hypocrisy, that one is kind of talking the talk but not really walking the walk. And that means if we truly see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the unique, the sovereign, the one, to whom no other do we seek help from, to whom no other do we worship, so forth, then this should come out in every aspect of our being. And it's at the level of nufus, at the level of the appetite and the ego, where the disparity, let's say, between that which we know to be true, to be haqq intellectually, and then that which we fail to practice or fail to actualize, it will come out at the level of the nafs, right? The appetite, the passions. One will put under duress, right, is another situation where you will see that we seemingly betray what we say, namely La ilaha illallah. So al-nafi wal-ithbat, the negation and the affirmation. And that negation is important because it negates not just liha, right, not just other gods, but all that comes with that, which means we don't plead with, we don't supplicate to, we don't put our aspirations in, we don't put our hopes in anything except the one who is deserved of having all of those things, namely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's touched a little bit on this theme before, and now he talks about it here in this 26th discourse about ishakwa ila al-khalq, about complaining. And the word complaining here, shakwa, in Arabic, has other kind of shades of meaning and connotations, I think, that we tend to overlook today. So yes, complaining, venting, showing one's frustration, telling a story so that you may elicit sympathy from others. These all kind of come under the idea of shakwa. And they're not always blameworthy, they're not always bad all the time. But part of dealing with calamities and dealing with masa'ib, trials and tribulation, is to put them with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you are hanging your solace with people's reaction to you and how they may show you sympathy or maybe lack thereof, and thinking that if I tell them then this will soften my heart and make me feel better. And in fact, it may, it's possible, but also it may not. Uh, but seeking people to provide that sort of comfort to your heart, um, Jilani, Sayyidina Shaykh, would see it as kind of foolish, because why would you put something somewhere where it doesn't belong? Um, they may choose to, they may choose not to. And as Sheikh said before in some of the other discourses, people seek you or are, hanging out with you or having a relationship with you ultimately for something that goes back for them. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeks you for you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for you and not something that goes back to Him because He doesn't need anything from you. And so there is no one more concerned and more uh, sympathetic and empathetic and more acquainted with your plight, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, the hills and valleys, the mountains and the mountain passes than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So another thing, a nice thing about this discourse that hopefully we'll get to the end of it is as we know, these were written down by his students. So the Sheikh didn't actually write these, but they were recorded and then documented and then passed on. And at the end, we'll read some of it. It has a kind of a description of how the majlis of the Sheikh is like. What did he do? And there's some dua that he said and how he kind of, so we'll go through that too, inshallah. So, but he begins with saying, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال من كنوز العرش كتمان المصائب يا من يشكو إلى الخلق مصائبه إيش ينفعك شكواك إلى الخلق لا ينفعونك ولا يضرونك إذا اعتمدت عليهم وأشركت في باب الحق عز وجل يبعدونك وفي سخطه يوقعونك وعنه يحجبونك أنت يا جاهل تدعي العلم من جملة جهلك طلبك الدنيا من غير ربها عز وجل تطلب الخلاص من الشدائد بشكواك إلى الخلق ويحك إذا كان هذا الكلب الشره يتعلم حفظ الصيد ويترك شره وطبعه وهذا الطائر أيضا بالتعليم يخالف طبعه ويترك ما كان عليه من أكل الصيود التي تجعل له فنفسك أولى بالتعليم علمها وفهمها حتى لا تأكل دينك وتمزقك وتخون في أمانات الحق عز وجل المودع عندها دين المؤمن عنده لحمه ودمه لا تصحبها قبل تعليمك لها إذا تعلمت وفهمت إذا تعلمت وفهمت واطمأنت حينئذ استصحبها أينما توجهت لا تفارقها في جميع الأحوال إذا اطمأنت صارت حليمة عالمة راضية بما يأتيها القدر به من الأقسام لا تفرق بين لب الحنطة وخبز الشعير ترتفع فيما للحظوظ تصير لأن لا تأكل أحب إلي من أن تأكل مساعدة لك على فعل الخير والطاعة والإيثار. So let's look at that first part. So he says, the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, among the treasures of the throne is the concealment of misfortunes. O you who complain to people about your misfortunes, what good will it do to you to complain to creatures? They can bring you neither benefit nor harm. If you rely on them and associate partners with the Lord of Truth, al-Haq, they will make you distant from Him, cause you to fall into His displeasure, and screen you from Him. As for you, O ignorant fool, you lay claim to knowledge. Part of your folly is your seeking this world without its Lord. You seek deliverance from hardships by complaining to mere creatures. So that first part is saying it's folly. What's the point of complaining? And we have this word in English to commiserate, right? Which comes from, and misery is there. So co-immiserate. So it means let us share in our misery together. Let's commiserate. And I'm not going to comment too much about that. I know it's kind of a thing with many people. But if we look to the al-adab al-islamiyya, the etiquettes, they say, for example, if you are going to visit someone who is sick or is not doing well of any of those things, uh, it should not be to commiserate, right? It should not be to share in their misery, where you bring some of your misery and you hear you hear of their misery, and then they hear of your misery, and then we commiserate. But rather, um, don't go there unless you have an intention to raise their spirits, to and تدخل السرور عليهم, right? To bring happiness على قلوبهم, to bring happiness to their qulub. So rather than kind of dwelling in the misery of the situation, you're actually supposed to try to lift their spirits and turn them towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they're feeling down on themselves, or if they feel like they have this illness and they're not going to get out of it, or they feel down on their luck, as it were, that sort of thing, you should offer words of encouragement. Say, no, 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 mashallah, this is just like a little dharf. This is a little, blip on the obstacle, speed bump on the road, and at the other side, you're going to be so much better for it. And you can't see the other side right now, but Allah sees the other side, and He knows it, and you're going to be there on that other side, and inshallah, you're going to come out much better for it. So don't dwell on this thing, and Allah still loves you. This is not a adab from Him, right? Because remember how we talked earlier that Jannah and Nar, that paradise and hellfire, are not so much the gentle breezes, physical breezes of the paradise, or the niran, or the engulfing flames of the fire, but it's about qurb and bu'd, right? Qurb and bu'd. So nearness, right? Spiritual nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and spiritual distance. Those are the two real Jannah and Jahannam. And so we could be in the middle of a difficult tribulation or calamity, but if we are still mushahideen al-qurb min Allah wa qurbuhu lana, if we are still witnessing our closeness to Him and His closeness to us, then that situation will not be as bad as it seems, right? Because we are still having mushahada, we're still witnessing it. We are still tasting the inayah, right? We are still have this taste of the divine concern for our plight. And so it may be bitter medicine, it may be difficult to swallow, but we are looking to the hand that is giving us the medicine, and not the medicine itself, right? When you feed the baby in the high chair, and you give them something, and they're looking at you, and they don't like the way it tastes, and you go, like that, and then but they're looking at you, so they might still take the next spoon, because they're not thinking, oh, I didn't really like the way that tasted, but my mom or my caregiver or my dad, they're the one who's giving me that. And so we should have a similar kind of outlook. Yeah, it's bitter, it's pandemic, it's not nice, it's making life difficult. It represents economic loss, and it represents loss of life, and it represents many things. But look to the hand, obviously in this case the proverbial hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is feeding us. And so don't focus on what we are being fed or what we are made to taste, but focus on the one who is making us taste, namely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that means also, what's the point of complaining to people, right? And saying, oh, you know what, that tasted really bad. That peach puree that my mom gave me, it was horrible. It didn't have enough sugar in it, or it was not good. And and the babies are talking back and forth. What's the point? But look to the one, or to the one who's bringing it to you, and just the khitab, just addressing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will be a relief of the burden, right? If we were really if we're really in tune with the divine, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what He's trying to do for us, just shakwa ilayhi, right? Just bringing the concern to Him will be in a relief in of itself. Just like when people complain to others and say, oh, what happened to me yesterday, and I had to pay X number of taxes, and the neighbor's dog went on my lawn again, and whatever people complain about. And then they feel a little bit of relief because they got it out, because they told somebody else about it. Well, imagine if you could do it in the best way possible, as the Shaykh is mentioning here, and you present it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the one who's going to provide the ultimate relief. So just by mentioning it to God, right, and not even necessarily waiting for the response or waiting for the answer of the supplication, whatever manner it may be, you've already kind of gone over that big hurdle in the beginning, which is the reluctance to to avoid saying it to people, but to say it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead. So then the next paragraph, he says, "Woe unto you, if this ravenous dog can learn to protect the game on which it would naturally prey, and if this bird can also be taught to go against its natural instinct and give up its habit of eating its normal prey, all the more reason for teaching your own self, your nafs." Right? مُكَلِّبِينَ تُعَلِّمُونَهُنَّ مِمَّا عَلَّمَكُمُ اللَّهُ فَكُلُوا مِمَّا أَمْسَكْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ وَاذْكُرُوا اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ. Surah Al-Ma'idah, talking about, sometimes referred to as ayat al-sayd, the verse of hunting, and it talks that one of the ways where halal, where meat is made halal, is the two slaughtering methods. So one is called dhabah, and that is for animals who don't have a long neck. So that would be for like a lamb, and also for a cow. So it's where it's cutting the jugular and the carotid and the windpipe and the esophagus, ideally, those four. That's called dhabah. Or it could be a nahar, which is for animals with a long neck, like a cow. Some cows, they said a cow can also do nahar, but mostly for camels, which it's going to the base of where the neck meets the chest and kind of stabbing it and penetrating the carotid or jugular over there. That's called a nahar. So that's for domesticated animals. And then for non-domesticated or wild animals, which can be like turkey and deer and fowl and whatever else, you can use your own weapon. So it can be a bow and arrow, and according to some of the ulama, even a rifle, shotgun, or it can be via a hunting animal. So an animal that's trained to hunt on your behalf. And so he mentions here the hunting dog, and it could be any animal that can be trained. So any variety of dog, and it could be the bird, which is usually the falcon. So you can train the dog or the falcon to go and hunt the prey. And one of the stipulations is فَكُلُوا مِمَّا أَمْسَكْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ, right? Eat that which they have merely grabbed for you, amsakna, or what they have merely have gotten on your behalf. So they may kill the animal themselves, but they can't eat from it. So if they eat from it, then it no longer becomes halal, at least in the Maliki school. So if an animal can be trained to defy its own instinct, right? You send the falcon off after the rabbit or the smaller bird, the pigeon, and it comes back with it and it didn't eat from it. Normally, that would be its meal. Or the same thing for the dog. Normally, it would eat from that meat in front of it, in its mouth. But it can be trained to go against what we'd call its nafs, its taba, in order to bring back the quarry or the prey for the hunter. So if animals can go against their nafs, then all the more reason for teaching your own nafs to go to against your own taba. So that may be uncomfortable, but think about the hunting dog or think about the falcon. He's not thinking to himself, oh, this is uncomfortable for me. They've been trained to do it. So he says, teach it and make it understand so that it will not devour your religion and tear you to pieces, right? Which is kind of a nice completion of the analogy. Just like, if the dog is not trained or the falcon's not trained, it can come back and hurt you and rip you to pieces, but you have to train it, right? And that's kind of the parable of the nafs. It's training it, using it to your favor. So that will not devour your religion, your deen, and tear you to pieces, and will not betray the amanat, the charges of the Lord of Truth, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, entrusted to it. To the believer, his religion is his flesh and blood. Do not befriend the self before you have given it this teaching. Once it has learned its lesson, acquired understanding, and become tame, then you must take it as your companion whichever way you turn, not parting from it under any circumstances. Once it is tame, It will become moderate or halima, like calm, tranquil, serene, knowledgeable, alima, and this is mu'annath in the feminine because nafs in Arabic is feminine, and content, radiya, with the allotted shares brought to it by destiny, by the qadar. Again, this is a recurring theme we see with the Shaykh. Al-Rida, right, bil-qada, al-Rida bil-aqsam, as he calls it. So qada means the decree in everything. In general, al-aqsam, al-qism, is that which Allah has designated as your lot in life, so to speak, your sustenance. So al-Rida bil-aqsam. It will not distinguish between wheat germ and barley bread. It will be indifferent to what may fall to its lot because it will prefer not to eat rather than to eat, in order to help you to do good, to be obedient, and to behave altruistically. Its nature will be transformed. It will become open-handed, generous, abstemious in this world, and desirous of the hereafter. This is for one whose nafs has been tamed. قد أفلح من زكاها, right? ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها. So whoever makes tazkiyah, right, purifies it, will have falah, which will be happiness both in this life and the next, and everything. And another translation of that word is success. So success both in this life and the next. Then when you abstain from the hereafter and seek the master or mawla, right, and this is another theme the Shaykh talks about repeatedly, الزهد في الدنيا والزهد في الآخرة والزهد عن كل ما سوى الله عز وجل. So there's zuhud in the dunya to avoid those things that are not the pure halal, and those things that do not bring you to a closer way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even the zuhud of the akhirah. So to abstain from having, I would say the best way to say it, to abstain from the main motivator for your acts of worship is to capture the delights of paradise of the akhirah. So that's zuhud fil akhirah. So we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He's worthy of being worshipped, because He is al-Mawla, right? He is the master, not because we are waiting to get our spoils in the next life. Those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will give to us, they are, as we said before, they indicate His rida, and that's what we really seek. So we want Allah's rida. We want Him to be pleased with us. How does He show us that He's pleased with us in the next life? Al-Jannah, right? Paradise, and all of the things that have been promised in paradise. And the most noble thing in paradise will be another ila wajhi al-kareem, to gaze upon the divine countenance in a manner that's commensurate with His Majesty Azza wa Jal. So then when you abstain from the hereafter and seek the Master or Mawla, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it will seek Him with you, yani your nafs, and travel with your heart toward His door. At this point, the sabiqah, or the predestination, will come and say to it, eat, or you have not eaten, and drink, or you have not drunk. So at that point, the nafs is transformed. Right? So an-nafs al-muzakka then goes out from this idea of an-nafs al-shahwaniyya, or the synonym for that, an-nafsu al-amara bis-su', as we know from the Quran, the nafs that is always going to iniquity, and then it becomes an-nafsu al-natiqa, right? An-nafsu al-natiqa, or the intelligent nafs, right? And the intelligent nafs now is working in tandem with your qalb, right? With your heart. And then that's when we talk about at the very, very beginning, the first rays of light that come in, we call it nafs al-lawama, right? The blaming soul. So sometimes it does good, sometimes it doesn't, but it knows when it does something wrong that it has to get out of that. It blames itself. Then it goes on to a nafs al-mulhama, then a nafs al-mutma'inna, then a nafs al-radiyya, thumma nafs al-mardiyya, thumma nafs al-kamila. The sab'at nufus are the seven levels of the soul. All of those 2 through 7 are examples of a nafsu al-natiqa, the intelligent soul. أما النفس الأمارة بالسوء أو النفس الشهوانية, so the appetitive soul or the iniquitous soul, all it cares about is satiation, getting what it wants, comfort zone, all that sort of thing. So there's no aqil, right? There's no intelligence about it. It's just kind of doing whatever it feels like it wants to do. But once we, inshallah, we're able to kind of get some sort of handle on it, then it becomes an-nafs and natiqa, and then those several different levels. So this discourse, let's go to something else. So he says a couple paragraphs later that I'll read in Arabic first. يا قوم عليكم رقباء أنتم في توقيل الحق عز وجل وما عندكم خبر كونوا عقلاء افتحوا أعين قلوبكم إذا حضر أحدكم في بيته جماعة فلا يكن مبتدئا بالكلام بل يكون كلامه جوابا ولا يسأل عما لا يعنيه التوحيد فرض وطلب الحلال فرض وطلب ما لا بد من العلم فرض والإخلاص في العمل فرض وترك العوض على العمل فرض اهرب من الفاسقين والمنافقين والتحق بالصالحين الصديقين إذا أشكل عليك الأمر ولم تفرق بين الصالح والمنافق فقم من الليل وصل ركعتين ثم قل يا رب دلني على الصالحين من خلقك دلني على من يدلني عليك ويطعمني من طعامك ويسقيني من شرابك ويكحل عين قربي بنور قربك ويخبرني بما رأى عيانا لا تقليدا القوم أكلوا من طعام فضل الله عز وجل وشربوا من شراب أنسه وشاهدوا باب قربه لم يقنعوا بالخبر بل جاهدوا وصابروا وسافروا عنهم وعن الخلق حتى صار الخبر عندهم عيانا لما وصلوا إلى ربهم أدبهم وهذبهم وعلمهم الحكم والعلوم أو الحكم والعلوم أطلعهم على ملكه وعرفهم أن ليس في السماء والأرض غيره ولا معطي غيره ولا مانع غيره ولا محرك ولا مسكن غيره ولا مقدر وقاد غيره ولا معز ولا مذل غيره ولا مسلط ولا مسخن غيره ولا قاهر غيره يريهم ما عنده فيرونه بأعين قلوبهم وأسرارهم فلا يبقى للدنيا وملكها عندهم قدر ولا وزن اللهم أرنا كما رأيتهم مع العفو والعافية. So he says, page 171 for those who are following. O my people, overseers or ruqaba, have you under surveillance. You are in the agency, the tawkeel, of the Lord of Truth. So the ruqaba, raqibun wa atid, the angels, right, that Allah assigns who have us under surveillance. You are in the agency or the tawkeel of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you have nothing to report. Be sensible. Open the eyes of your hearts. When a group, a jama'ah, visits one of you at home, do not be the one to start the conversation, but speak only in response and do not ask about things that do not concern you. So he's talking about jama'ah min as-salihin. Learning to read with your heart begins with listening more than speaking. So if we're speaking most of the time and if we feel the need that we always have to speak, then this gets in the way of us listening, right? And we've all either been around people like this or we've seen it in ourselves. Those people who just kind of are speaking and they're kind of speaking at you and not really speaking to you. And then if you try to say something back to them, it's just they're not listening because they're just about kind of getting what they have to say, out from under themselves. So he's saying, when you're with the akabir, right? When you're with people who are as-salihin was-siddiqeen, and what you consider to be a high maqam, then there's a certain adab, there's a certain etiquette that goes along with that. And the first etiquette of that is respect. And the second etiquette of that is khidmah. So, al-ihtiram wal-hurma wal-khidmah. So we respect them, not in of themselves, but what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ma awda Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fi qulubihim, that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in their hearts. And so we accord them a level of respect for that. And then we seek to serve them. And by serving them, and if they are true servants of Allah, then we're actually serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is a huge, huge benefit in that. It's kind of one of the keys that our teachers have told us is one of the keys to wilayah, to this special relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to be khadim, to be khaddam, to be someone who serves more than someone who wants to be served. So, and the Arabs used to say, Sayyidul Qawm khadimuhum, the leader of the people is the one who serves them. And so, even if you're in a leadership position, don't see yourself as muta'ali, don't see yourself as the one who should be served, right? And the one that should be at your beck and call. It's actually quite the opposite. So it's more about servant leadership. You serve others, and by serving them, you're actually leading them, even though they may not even realize they're being led. And some of the best leaders are those who lead by that way, so that the follower doesn't even realize that someone is actually leading them, and they still feel they're in a place of dignity, and they don't feel like, that they're being told what to do, and they're being, led around to do something. But it becomes more of a organic, natural, holistic approach to this benefit that can be imparted from enlightened leadership to followers who will become enlightened, and then after that, they too will become leaders and so forth. So that's kind of the Islamic model of leadership. So you begin as a follower, then you can be a leader, and then you impart leadership to other followers, and then those followers become leaders. وهكذا. So silence is a very important thing, and that's part of the respect of the hurma. And then khidmah, seek to serve them, right? Seek to, and by serving them, you're overcoming part of that nafsani part in you. And that's why they said one of the important benefits of the student sheikh relationship is some people who think, well, I don't need a sheikh, I don't need like someone to tell me what to do, and I can understand the Quran and Sunnah by myself, and I could read the books, and I don't need this intermediary person to get in the way and tell me what to do, and so forth. All of that type of talk is nafs, right? That's the ego speaking. To try to say, I'm going to serve Allah, right off the bat, is difficult to do, because your nafs is going to get in the way. Your ego is going to get in the way, and it's going to try to justify all the things that you do, and you say, well, this is in service for Allah. This thing and that thing and all these other things that even my nafs wants me to do, I will justify them and kind of twist them and make them into the mold of service for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when in actuality, hiya nafsuka, right? It's your nafs, it's your ego, it's your appetite that's doing that. But it's pretty tricky, and it's pretty smart in the way that it tries to get you to believe that. But by first serving another human being, right, which is more tangible, it's closer. And our teachers tell us, if you can't submit yourself to the direction of another human being, you will really never be able to submit yourself to the direction of God, to the direction of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's one of the secrets why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets and messengers, because the prophets and messengers are there to expedite, let's say, facilitate us following Allah. Man yuta al-Rasula faqad ata'a Allah. Quran. Whoever follows the Prophet ﷺ has followed God. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُبَايِعُونَكَ إِنَّمَا يُبَايِعُونَ اللَّهَ يَدُ اللَّهِ فَوْقَ أَيْدِيهِمْ. The ones who give you bay'ah, the ones who give you the oath of fealty, in actuality, they are giving it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hand of God is above their hand, proverbially, not literally. So that's why when you're around people like that, akabir, we show them respect, and we wait for them to tell us, before we speak. And then that's why he said, make your speech with them jawab. Make it in response to what they are saying to you. So we'll go after that. He says, and do not ask about the things that do not concern you. Right? من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. From the good Islam of the person is to leave off that which does not concern them. And Probably if we were to take a survey of our speech and the things we think about, unfortunately, like, majority, 90, 80% of what we do and what we think about and what we say are probably things la ta'nina, right? They can't say like, oh, this thing is going to count for me in the akhirah. When we're sitting in our graves and after everyone has walked away, after they just buried us, and now we're waiting for su'al al-munkar wa nakir, for the two angels are going to come ask us those three questions. The vast majority of things that we're doing in this life, we're going to think about like, how's that going to help me right now in this particular position that I'm here in right now, as I embark on the next life and in the the true life, as it were, not just the next life, but the true life. So this deen also, half of it is restraint, half of it is to avoid things that are either harmful or that bring no benefit. So then he says the affirmation of unity, of Tawheed, is an obligatory duty. The quest for what is lawful is obligatory. The quest for indispensable knowledge is also obligatory. Sincerity in practice is an obligatory duty. It is also an obligatory duty to forego recompense for one's good deeds. Flee from sinners and hypocrites and join the righteous, the Salihin, and the Siddiqeen. If you find things confusing and you cannot tell the difference between the righteous and the hypocrite, again, this is munafiq al-a'mal, not munafiq al-i'tiqad, right? The one who has some shirk khafi, some hidden shirk. Yani they're not doing everything for Allah. They have their nufus is still there, but they're still Muslim, right? So if you cannot tell the difference between the righteous and the hypocrite, you must stay awake at night and form 2 rak'ah or 2 cycles of prayer, and then say, "Oh my Lord, guide me to the righteous among your creatures. Guide me to those who will guide me to you." And this is a very famous dua that people usually, that's what they're given when they say, "I don't know, where is this sohbah, this companionship, and this mentor and this sheikh and these things we're talking about?" Wake up at night, as the sheikh is saying here, and say, "Ya Allah, please lead me to the one who will lead me to you. Let me eat of your food and let me drink of your drink. Anoint the eye of my nearness with the light of your nearness, and inform me through what it sees by direct observation, not through hearsay." Right? And here is a subtle indication of the difference between taqleed and mushahada. Right? And here we're not talking about fiqh. So you can be a muqallid, right? You can be someone who follows authoritative scholarship in acts of worship, and hada matlub. This is something you have to do unless you are mujtahid mutlaq, unless you are able to do that on your own, which very, very, very few people, historically speaking, not just today, have been able to do. But here he's talking about taqlid wal ijtihad, or tahqiq, in matters of ascertaining or having more certainty about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we shouldn't just be, in matters of iman, we shouldn't be muqallid, we should actually be mujtahid. And mujtahid in this sense means that I am establishing those convictions in my heart and I'm seeking them out from myself, and not just hearsay, not just what other people have to say, but I want to seek them out myself by learning, right, which is discursive knowledge, and also by spiritual practice and contemplation and wayfaring, and then that will lead me to dhawqi knowledge, right? That will lead me to the knowledge that can only be found by practice and by contemplation, right? And by seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may put in your heart, this ilm al-wahbi, right? This is knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives directly to your heart, or sometimes referred to as ilm al-ladunni, right? Coming straight from Allah, then straight to you. And that transmission is sometimes called ilham, inspiration. فَالْإِنسَانِ الْمُلْهَمِ is the one who is inspired. So Allah inspires them and puts those meanings directly in their heart. And even the words that they say that they may be pronouncing to others also could be mulham, could be inspired, coming directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So direct observation, yani mushahada, right? Or mu'ayana. Right, so seeing or tasting or all similar things, but it's all seeing and tasting of the heart, not of anything else. So I just want to show you at the end, we'll stop here, but show at the end what the Shaykh, how he used to do his majalis. which comes at the end of page 172. He said the Shaykh radiallahu anhu used to say at the beginning of every session, Majlis, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. He would repeat these words 3 times, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, pausing for a moment of silence after each repetition. Then he would say to match the number of his creatures, the weight of his throne, his own good pleasure, and scope of his words. The knower of the unseen and the visible, عالم الغيب والشهادة, the merciful, al-Rahman, the compassionate, al-Rahim, al-Malik, al-Quddus, al-Aziz, al-Hakim. And then I bear witness that there is none worthy of worship except Allah. وَأَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ لَهُ الْمُلْكُ وَلَهُ الْحَمْدُ يُحْيِي وَيُمِيتُ حَيٌّ لَا يَمُوتُ. Right? And you see, most of us know the translation of that. بِيَدِهِ الْخَيْرُ, in his hand is all good. وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, he has power over all things. And then he bears witness that أَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ, whom within his guidance and the religion of truth, أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق يظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون أو لو كره الكافرون. That verse from the Quran. And then he would say, "Oh Allah, bless Muhammad and the family of Muhammad ﷺ, and protect the Imam and the community, the Ummah and the shepherd and the flock, al-Ra'i wal-Ra'iyah, reconcile their hearts in good deeds, ward off the evil that one may do to another. O Allah, you are the knower of our secret souls, as-Sara'ir, so correct them. You are the knower of our deeds, so fulfill them. You are the knower of our sins, so forgive them. You are the knower of our faults, so conceal them. Do not see us where you have forbidden us to be, and do not fail to find us where you have commanded us to be. Let us not forget your remembrance. Let us not feel safe from your cunning wiles, makr Allah, and let us not have no need of any but you. Do not include us among the heedless. O Allah, inspire us, ilhimna, with our right guidance, and grant us refuge from the evil of our own selves. Make us preoccupied with you to the exclusion of everyone apart from you. Separate us from every separation that separates us from you. Inspire us to remember you, to be grateful to you, and to worship you well." Then he would turn to his right and say, "There is none worthy of worship except Allah. Whatever Allah wills, mashallah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-azim." Then he would say the same thing facing to his front. Then he would say, "Do not publish our reports. Do not rend our veils. Do not chastise us for the evil of our deeds. Do not revive us unawares, and do not take us by surprise." And then he recites the ayah from Surah Al-Baqarah. And then he would start speaking about whatever revelations of the unseen Allah might cause his tongue to utter. يَفْتَحُ عَلَيْهِ أو يَفْتَحُ عَلَى لِسَانِهِ, without notes or prepared text. So that gives us the impression that he didn't have any books in front of him or notes or prepared text. This was all coming from, as he calls it, Al-Fath al-Rabbani wal-Fayd al-Rahmani. So sublime revelation and divine openings. In a few sessions, you would have memorized a saying, a khabar attributed to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, or one of the many wise statements that were written for the words of the Hukamat. So then he would begin by mentioning this to invoke its blessing and start by basing his talk upon it. And that's exactly what we've been seeing so far. So he usually starts out with a hadith or some type of hikmah min al-Hukamat from the sages, and then he would go, وَمَا يَفْتَحُ اللَّهُ لَهُ فِي عَلَى لِسَانِهِ, what Allah gives him, fatah, gives him opening to say after that. So may Allah bless Shaykh Abd al-Jilani and make any benefit that we're deriving from reading his words, that has been for the past few weeks, fi mizan hasanatihi, in his scale of good deeds, and in the good deeds of all whom he wills, from his family and from his progeny, and may be of the greatest benefit to us, inshallah, and in our mizan al-hasanat, in our scale of good deeds. So we'll stop here, inshallah. I apologize, went over time a little bit.